Hey everybody, welcome back to the Unqualified Film Bros podcast. Ben's under the weather this week, so it's just going to be the two of us, George and Max. We are going to cover a lot tonight. We got two topics on this episode. So we're going to talk about the Oscars and what we experienced last Sunday night, and then we're going to talk about Paddington in Peru, which is the threequel we've been waiting for a few years. Very excited to get into that. But first, let's talk about the Oscars. Anora Best Picture,
Sure.
kind of cleaned up with 5 wins, most on the night. Sean
Yep.
Baker making some history. I think third person ever to win 4 Oscars for one film.
I'll take your word for it.
After I think
I
what
think
I've
that
heard
sounds
is
right though. Yeah.
Walt Disney, like many years ago, or no, 4 at 1 ceremony because Walt Disney won for 4 different films that year. And then Bong Joon-ho for Parasite won 4 different ones, which can't blame him. Parasite's like one of the best films of this century and maybe ever. Um, that's a little tease for what we're talking about next week. Anyway, um, yeah, what surprised you about this year's Oscars?
Honestly, I was surprised that that Mikey won. We haven't seen a lot of recognition of young actors and actresses in recent Oscars memory. I think Timothy Chalamet is kind of a prime example of a young actor who has been nominated and recognized by name, but not an award on multiple occasions. And, I'm sure he sees the jokes running around online comparing him to Leonardo DiCaprio, and that we'll see him in 2037. Um, and he clearly doesn't like it. You saw his SAG Awards speech,
Yeah,
uh,
wants to be one of the greats.
facing greatness. And who can blame him, right? Like he's putting himself in the position to succeed and to do that.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
his filmography so far at 29 years old is ridiculous.
yeah. But I don't want that to distract from the fact that he's surrounded by young, talented actors and actresses that are doing this. Stephanie Shu, a couple years ago, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Mikey this year. You've got, I mean, even Robert Pattinson in The Lighthouse, you know, young to youngish actors, Jennifer Lawrence. Um, you got
Yeah, I
so
mean,
much talent.
actors in their 20s and 30s are having a sort of renaissance, which is, I mean, speaking as two guys in our 20s right now, we're go our generation, right? But yeah, it's really almost like a changing of the guard in Hollywood to see something like this. And you speak of Mikey's win in the best actress in a leading role category. We all last week when we did our predictions episode were calling Demi Moore a lock for that Oscar. And the question has to be asked, is she going to get another shot? Like, will someone I would figure, I would venture a guess that someone will give her another, maybe not quite Elizabeth Sparkle level role like The Substance. She's definitely going to get a lot of work based on that movie. And so I am anticipating a little bit of a career renaissance for her. But like, was The Substance her best shot at an Oscar?
I mean, I think you're kind of asking a lot of the questions that the substance asked, right? Like,
Right.
you know,
And
and
this great headline from, I can't remember if it was Vulture or Variety, um, after Sunday night's almost upset in the Best Actress category, and the Oscar goes to Sue. Like, that
yeah,
says it all. The fucking Oscars opened with Conan climbing out of Demi Moore's back in a nod to The Substance as part of his opening. You call it a monologue, performance, whatever you want. Um, and Conan's always done shit like that, and it's been awesome. But yeah, I
did
mean,
a good,
this was the year of The Substance,
yeah,
and Coralie Farjah nominated for Best Director, didn't win, lost to Sean Baker. So I don't know. It won Best Makeup and Hairstyling, and that was the only Oscar it won.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot that goes, I think there's a lot of different factors at play, right? When you look at Farjat losing to Baker, and, there's history there of women being overlooked in the Best Director category, not even being recognized, for example, in the category.
Nine ever nominated.
Yeah, absurd.
And I think only three have won.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah. Um,
yeah.
But the age thing is interesting. Going back to your original question, George, about Demi Moore's age and kind of what her career looks like after this. Why should it not lead to more, right?
No, I'm saying it should.
No, and I know that wasn't what you were going at, but it's like it makes absolutely no sense that you have this actress that has is looking to have a career renaissance and has clearly made it back to that level of performance. Why not? I mean, that the same thing goes with women like uh I'm forgetting who from Killers of the Flower Moon.
Lily Gladstone.
Lily Gladstone, yes, thank you. Like, why is Lily Gladstone not just as booked as some of these other, right? I mean, there's so much that goes into it and what it takes for women to be cast in roles in Hollywood that aren't, you know,
Well,
kind of right.
that's the very nature of what we're getting at here is,
Yeah.
you know, Michelle Yeoh won for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and she's been all over the place since then. She is constantly getting work. Emma Stone won for Poor Things, and she is constantly getting work. Mikey Madison's career is about to take off from Honora. I think we can all anticipate that. Um, but the flip side, as we mentioned with Lily Gladstone, she hasn't really done a whole lot in the mainstream in the last year. Is that something we're going to see with Demi Moore in the next couple of years, where she sort of takes a back seat because she didn't get that Oscar?
Yeah. And how does the age thing kind of play into that, right? Because
Yeah.
it, it is a product of what the movie was getting at, not unsubtly.
No,
Um,
in fact, quite
very real.
blatantly.
Yeah,
We all
very
saw
real,
that finger.
very real issues and problems that still exist and are prevalent today.
Yeah. Um, just another quick note on the Oscars before we move on to Paddington. Uh, I think you and I both called Conclave for Best Picture.
Hmm.
Kind of a quiet night for Conclave. Best
Yeah,
adapted screenplay, and that's it.
yeah.
Um, I rewatched it again last night because we postponed the pod. I was like, I'll throw Conclave on.
Mhm.
Why not? I mean, I haven't seen Honora yet, and we're doing Honora in a couple weeks, so I have no excuse not to see it. Um, but yeah, Conclave, I feel was a really, really strong movie that kind of got shafted at the Oscars this year.
Yeah. Conclave is spectacular. I mean, it's you know, I know the jokes that they were running a crazy Oscars campaign leading up to the
And
the
we won't
ceremony.
say why.
Won't say why. But that that shouldn't take away from the fact that it is a really excellent film. And we've got an episode about it, so go
Go
watch
check
it.
that out. It's on the playlist that's over there, I
It's
think.
in one of the you'll see it. You'll find it.
Or if you're watching us on the YouTube app, then it's down there.
Yeah. But
Um,
yeah, great film that absolutely I think got shafted. What else was it? It was Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay.
Cinematography, best actor,
I
score, costume design. It
I
had eight
mean,
noms and won one.
I mean, it got shafted in the sense that it only got one out of, what was it, eight, you said?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
hey,
But
Emilia Perez only got two out of 13.
yeah, no, I get that. But still, like the categories that it lost in, Best Picture was probably the one that it had the best, weirdly, it had the best chance
Yeah.
at. Best costume, it wasn't winning.
No.
Best score, it wasn't winning. Um, Adapted screenplay it did win, and then what was the other one that you had?
Best actor?
Yeah, best act. I mean, not well, he's
Ray Fiennes gives a tremendous performance,
yeah, he
but
does.
of the five nominated for best actor, he might be number five.
Well, I mean, also the fact that, we know you campaign for an Oscar, and he famously doesn't like to do that.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
Chalamet campaigned like hell, and he still
sure,
lost to Adrian Brody.
sure.
Brody, with, by the way, the longest acceptance speech in the history of the Academy Awards at 7 days,
Man,
2 hours, and 4 minutes.
man, look,
It was like The Brutalist. It had like the first hour 45, then a musical intermission, and then the next hour 45.
look, you don't need to do that, but I do appreciate that we do have some artists with their heads so far up their asses that they're unapologetically going to do whatever the hell they
And the
want.
thing about Adrian Brody is that he's won two Oscars, but in between, he's done a bunch of Wes Anderson movies and total direct to video shit.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's
He's had
really
an
interesting,
absolutely
but I
fascinating
respect
career.
the hell out of it. I
Oh,
really do.
absolutely.
I really respect it
And you know what?
because
Timothy Chalamet, one, like you said, 2037, his time will come. And two,
hopefully before 2037.
yeah. And two, A Complete Unknown wasn't his Oscar worthy performance in 2024.
No, it
Dune
wasn't.
Part 2 was his Oscar worthy performance, and he wasn't
Yeah,
nominated
but
for it.
Dune doesn't exist because apparently it happened before the Academy got its head out of its
Okay,
ass.
but
And
if Dune Part 2 had been released when it was supposed to be released in November of 2023, it also wouldn't exist because it would have been up against Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon and The Holdovers and all of those from last year.
see, I think that's where you're wrong, though. I think it would get swept up in that conversation because of the quality of those films, right?
Does
They're
Dune Part 2
not.
win its technical
I'm not
awards
saying that it. I'm
last
not
year?
saying that it.
It
I'm
won
not
this
saying that
year.
it wins. I'm just saying that it gets recognition. Like they got shut out. It got completely shut out. They
Dune
would
Part 2,
at least.
it won two awards this year.
I mean, yeah, but like it
It's the
should be
same
in the
number
best.
as Amelia Perez.
Should be in the best picture conversation.
Yeah. And the fact that it wasn't when the first
It should
one
be in the
was,
best director conversation.
the fact
Like
that Denis Villeneuve wasn't even nominated for Best Director is a travesty
that's
for
what
that
I'm
film.
saying. That's what I'm saying. Like it. Like I do think because of the way that 23 was structured. That wait, no, yeah,
Yeah,
23, right?
23.
Yeah, the way that 23 was structured, like I think it would get swept up in that conversation because people would be talking about, holy shit, look at the quality of the slate of movies we've had this year and point to all of the great ones. I think this was just a weird year. I still think that there would be a good conversation about Dune Part 2 if it was released in November of 23.
It's crazy that I think there are six or seven films from last year's class that would have won Best Picture this year.
Yeah, they would clear. Yeah, I don't know the exact, but yeah, there's
I mean, we didn't
a
even mention like
number of
Anatomy of a Fall, Zone of Interest. Like, these are great films. Fucking Barbie, Best Picture nominee.
Yeah, I would probably put that one the
Maybe
lowest.
in the few that wouldn't beat Anora this year.
Barbie might have beaten Nora this year.
I don't know. I don't know, and we'll never know.
No, we will never know. It'd be really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be
So, I
really.
mean, we're gonna have to leave it up to like our friends over at Screen Rant to say, well, what would have happened if this film were in this year?
Yeah,
So, Screen Rant, go work on that. Hey
sure.
Max,
Hey, George.
you want to talk about Paddington?
Yeah, let's talk about Paddington. What a lovely bear, you know? He
He's
just
truly
likes it
delightful.
all. Yeah, he really is. With his cute little hat from Uncle Pastuzo. Um,
All my homies love Uncle Pastuzo.
yeah, we really do. We love him. Aunt Lucy,
Aunt
love
Lucy's a
her.
real one.
Yeah. Look, I'll kick it off. I think we both can acknowledge, and we've talked about this. The third one is the weakest, the clear weak link of the three. But I think it's still such a high floor. Like Paddington, the character, is all that matters in these movies. And what you get with Paddington is something truly delightful. In this polite little British Peruvian bear who likes to eat marmalade and is just trying to do what he thinks is the right thing to do. Like there's nothing about him that does anything with any malice.
Yeah,
He's he's so good and so pure intentioned, and it's just nice to have even in a kids movie just a character like that to make us all feel okay and good about things when everything is clearly not like that.
yeah, that was really well put. Um, yeah, I mean the vocal performance by Ben Whishaw and the character design and the script for this character for Paddington Bear, Paddington Brown, across all three movies has remained the bright spot of these movies. Um, or the bright spots, plural, because I mentioned three things. Um,
I
yeah,
got you.
what what we have with the Paddington movies is when we go in to watch one, we know what we're gonna get with Paddington as a character across all facets, dialogue and vocal performance and animation. We know what we're gonna get, and our expectations are met. And Paddington 2, I think, which we can agree is probably the best one, um,
So,
it's so good. Is it exceeds our expectations there, but at the very least, like you said, it's a very high floor, and the baseline for a Paddington movie around this character is still going to be an enjoyable ride, and perhaps
yeah,
ride more so in this one than in the first two, because this is certainly the most of an adventure that he's been on. Um, but yeah, it's I didn't. There was a you know how do I phrase this? When watching the first two movies, I'm just sitting there for almost 2 hours with this big dumb grin on my face the whole time because of how great Paddington makes me feel. And this one, I was smiling the whole time. I enjoyed it, but there was just something missing. And I don't know if it was heart because the heart is still there, but it just didn't, like, tonally almost, it was a little different than the first two.
it was, and I think you get that because it literally tells you in the title, Paddington is not going to be in the comfy confines of Windsor Gardens. He's going to be in Peru. And, this lovely journey of self exploration and finding himself and finding like his family, his people, like with the undertones of immigration and refugee bundling and that has been set up in the first two movies. Um, it kind of is that payoff of like he's gonna be unsettled in the third one because it's this new environment. He's now a stranger in his own home after all these years in London. So it's kind of going back and forth between these two worlds. And how is this little bear going to navigate it? And how is it going to be portrayed to the young audiences that the movie's target and tackle these subjects that are not easy, that are complex and hard to talk about, but do it in a fun and light way that um, hopefully when you watch these brings out the good in you and makes you feel happy and good.
Yeah, I think what's so great about this movie is that it does address a lot of those important issues and subject matters through an amusing lens, right? You know, with the whole, like you brought up immigration and changing countries, as it were, um, right away in the very beginning of the movie. First 5 minutes of the movie, it's a difficult subject, especially in our current political climate. But you've got Paddington walking into a photo booth and speaking to the automated voice as though it's a person and shoving his face in the camera. Place your face in the red inside the red circle, and then he takes all of these different photos, and it's lighthearted, it's fun, and then he gets to the customs desk in Peru, and he does the bit again where he presses his face against the glass, and he's allowed into the country. And so, yeah, we're touching on some heavy duty themes, but the way, you know, and I mentioned how like tonally it's a little bit different, this movie as a whole, but we're still getting a light enough tone throughout where we can have these conversations, but we're having fun while we're doing it.
Yeah. And I think part of the strength of all three movies is that the villains are so cartoony that in a not and I don't mean that in a derisive way. I mean that in a complimentary way that they have this exaggeration about them, like especially Nicole Kidman and
Mm-hmm.
has Cruella de Vil vibes. You know, you've got Phoenix Buchanan in Paddington 2,
Okay, Hugh Grant in
just
that role is
absolute
fucking
delight.
perfect.
Yeah, he's great. He's just doing whatever, man. Like he's really doing any role that
He's
crosses. Do I
it's
want to
all
play a Mormon serial killer? Sure. Heretic, sign me up. Do I want to play an Oompa Loompa? Sure. Why the hell not? Like he's doing whatever he wants, and Benoit Blanc's partner in
in
Glass
Glass Onion.
Onion. Sure. Yeah.
Don't
I mean, I
forget
love
about his villainous turn in what was that Guy Ritchie movie we did with Jason Statham?
Bruce de Guerre.
Operation Fortune Ruse de Guerre, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, he's just doing side quests at this point, and a Paddington role as a villain is fucking perfect for him.
And he was great,
He was the
and they
best,
have,
you know. I mean, I wouldn't say he was the best part of Paddington 2. The whole prison sequence was the best part of
oh
Paddington
man,
2.
the movie is so good.
So it's
It's so
perfect.
good.
I'm gonna watch it again, and I'm gonna bump it from 4.5 to 5 stars.
I thought about giving it an instant five. I'm not gonna lie.
So, quick
I
aside,
really did.
I've done three instant fives in my life. Spider-Man. Well, no, since I started logging movies, and that's like late 2019, I started logging movies on Letterboxd. Um, Spider-Man: No Way Home was an instant five. Glass Onion was an instant five, and Saving Private Ryan was an instant five.
Fair enough.
Those are the only three movies I've ever given an instant five. Even like Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, which I saw in IMAX middle 2 days before it opened, was still a 4.5 out of 5 when I first saw it. Top Gun Maverick, saw it in IMAX the first time I saw it. It was a 4.5 out of 5 the first time I saw it. They're both 5 out of 5s now, but it takes a lot for an instant five for me. So I'm impressed that Paddington 2 was almost an instant five for you.
Well, I mean, I also might have a lower bar, but that was just how I was feeling when I saw it. It was like, oh man, this was so good.
Like when I saw the first Paddington movie, and I got to these movies late. I think I saw the first one for the first time like a year ago,
Yeah.
and I think I saw the second one for the first time 3 4 months ago. But I saw the first one and I was like, yeah, that I get it. That's delightful. I enjoy that movie immensely. And then I started the second one and I'm like, how are they going to recapture the magic of the first one? and then they completely do, and they blow it out of the water, and it's even more so fucking awesome to watch. Just fun.
Yeah.
Just like I keep using the word delightful. It's a delight to watch these movies. And then I get to the third one, and I think, how are they going to top Paddington 2? And they don't. And I think, we talked about the tonal shift of being out of his element and on a new adventure as being part of that. You also brought up the villains as being very cartoonish. Um, and what we get here is two villains for the price of one. Um, Antonio Banderas, I would say, is better than Nicole Kidman in his performance. His character certainly feels more grounded, more realistic.
I don't want
Minus
it to be realistic though. Like I want
minus the
real
talking to the
realistic.
ancestor paintings,
Oh,
which was fun to see him in all of those different roles.
yes.
Um, Olivia Colman, I have a problem with Olivia Colman in this movie, and that's she's and I love Olivia Colman. I have loved her for years. You know my feelings about Olivia Colman. She's, dare I say, too over the top here. Like it almost feels like sort of schmacting over the top, overdoing it, hamming it up for the sake of, oh, I'm in a Paddington movie.
I disagree.
I had
Disagree completely.
fun watching her, but I thought the movie lost something with her. And I thought the movie
Disagree.
also, in terms of casting, the movie also lost something by going from Sally Hawkins to Emily Mortimer as Mrs. Brown.
I agree with that 100%.
Sally Hawkins was,
Such a
other than
what the
Paddington,
hell? What are they doing?
I think it was scheduling conflicts for Sally
Yeah,
Hawkins,
I'm sure it was.
but she, other than the actual bear in the first two movies, Sally Hawkins was the heart in those movies.
Yeah.
And Emily Mortimer just has this big smile on her face the whole time in this movie, trying to recapture that, and it's just swing and a miss.
Yeah, I love Emily Mortimer. I think she really could have excelled in the role if she had been in the
If
movie.
it had
The
been her role,
Yeah.
she was trying.
But you're stepping into Sally Hawkins' shoes, trying to do your best Sally Hawkins while also trying to make it your own. And it's like, it's a little off, and everyone knows it's off. So you're kind of already behind the eight ball here. Like,
Plus,
what
you're
else can you
acting
do?
you're acting opposite Hugh Bonneville for a lot of it, and he's been fantastic in all three movies.
Yeah, he's really, really sold it. Um, and I respect the hell out of that. Like, these films are so British. They're so British. Like, they get every single person under the sun in British acting royalty, basically, to come and do these movies just because he's such a beloved character. Like this is this is like a cultural thing for them. And like that's why I think Paddington 2 for me is such a standout. It's the darkest of the three films because it deals with a wrongful conviction. Like at the base of it, that's what it is. And getting framed for a crime that he didn't commit as a new like he's not a citizen yet. Like he's not a British citizen. Like that's the whole point of Paddington in Peru is like he needs to get his passport and everything. Um,
Yeah,
like I forgot my point other than that that Paddington like that's why oh yeah, Paddington 2 is so great because it deals with that idea of like otherness. Um, and there's real fear. Like he was locked away in prison and had to rely on the people around him.
Knuckles.
Yeah, Knuckles McGinty. Um,
Is that the
yeah,
career best turn by Brendan Gleeson?
man, he
Who's to say, really? If Ben were here right now, he would be chewing me out. He would say, "No, In Bruges is his best role."
Banshees of Inisherin, he was pretty damn good
He was
too.
pretty damn good in Banshees of Inisherin,
Yeah,
yeah. I don't know,
but
the cutting the fingers off kind of threw me off. But it's Martin McDonagh, so something weird's gonna happen.
Something weird is gonna happen. Yeah.
Yeah, Paddington and Peru, I think the bottom line for me is that a lot of the joy is still there.
Yep.
Obviously, the attention to detail with the character design and then Ben Wishaw's performance, like it's all great.
Yep.
It's just that with such a high bar set by the first two movies, it was going to take a lot for this movie to reach that level. And it's okay that it didn't, right? Not every movie is going to be Paddington 2. If they keep doing these, maybe they recapture that in the fourth or fifth one. But
Yeah, I think a sequel is actually planned.
wonderful. I'd see
Yeah.
10 of these.
Yeah, there's no reason for them to stop making them. Like he's such a
But
iconic character.
can you see if you can get Sally Hawkins back for the fourth one?
I agree with that. With all respect to Emily
All
Mortimer.
respect to Emily Mortimer.
I
Um,
really do like her. I really do like her. I
she,
think it would have been great if she had the role from the beginning.
yeah,
If she had the shoes were way too big to
and
fill.
her performance didn't know whether it wanted to be her own or her own Sally Hawkins, Mrs.
Yeah.
Brown, and it
Yeah.
kind of falls in between and it misses.
She lacked the tenderness that Sally Hawkins had.
That's it.
And you can pick up on it almost instantly in the first movie when they meet Paddington at Paddington Station, when she leans down to talk to him. There's just a way about how she holds her body in that moment that is just like, yeah, we know you're gonna be Mama Bear the rest of his life. Like that's it. You already know, even you already know that this is his new mom. Like this is his family. She is going to raise this bear cub as her own.
And that, despite the absence of Sally Hawkins here, still the presence of Mrs. Brown and Mr. Brown
Yep.
and the kids. Um, that's Paddington's whole journey in this movie. Is yes, he has to go all the way to Peru to find Aunt Lucy and find his original bear tribe family. But the decision he makes at the end of the movie to go back to London with the Browns is the family I found in London is my family. This might be
Mhm.
my home, but my home is in London.
Yep.
Or no, the line is this is where I'm from, but it's not my home.
Right.
Something like that. I don't know, it's been 2 weeks
Yeah.
since I've seen the movie.
That's basically it. Yeah. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
like I belong with you. Like
Yeah.
I love it here. And I'm so happy that I was able to find and discover this part of who I am because it's been what was missing. Like even with Uncle Pastuzo and Aunt Lucy, there was so much of his story and his life that was missing. He's filled that gap in now,
Yeah.
for the time, and he now knows where he can go back to, should he ever need to and want to. But he knows that his home is now in London and that he has a life there and a family.
And Friends.
Yeah, and neighbors that care about him, right? I mean, I think
The Umbrella.
again, yeah, the umbrella, and them watching and at the end of Paddington 2 showing up with the prisoners showing up. Like it's 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 just a really nice message for kids to have that good acts don't go unpunished. They don't go unnoticed too. Um
Be
and
like
that like
Paddington.
yeah. Yeah. Like there's a lot of cynicism in the world, but Paddington is kind of the character that can cut through some of it. And it's okay.
Especially
It's okay to
with,
kind of get lost in that and have the childlike wonder.
and remember, you can always solve your problems with some marmalade and a hard stare.
Yeah. George, we talked about this. It took entirely too
Why
long
did
to
it
get
take the
hard
whole
there.
movie to get to the
And
hard stare?
yeah, what the hell is going on with that? What's up with that, huh?
Antonio Banderas forgot his manners long before Olivia Colman did.
Yeah, like what is this?
A hard stare is like essential to these movies, and it took us. It's an hour 40 something minute movie. Took us an
Right.
hour 40 to get to the hard stare.
And I don't get why we only get one. Like, there's plenty of people that deserve hard stares.
Yeah,
I guess he doesn't want it to dilute its power, I guess, which is smart. So it's a good idea. I don't know.
it is good for when someone has forgotten their manners.
That's true. Is it getting hot in here?
Also, shout out Haley Atwell.
True. Weird role, but good
Weird
for
role
her.
for her, but always fun to see her.
Yeah. But again, like you said, I think it is like kind of an opportunity for some of these actors to be like, oh yeah, Paddington. I was in a Paddington movie. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Because he really is that kind of a
he's a
cultural.
cultural draw.
Yeah. I do remember my point from earlier, and it was the point that because Paddington 2 is so good, um, because it finally is like a British film and a character so iconically British, acknowledging like issues within its own systems of justice and stuff like that. Like that's important, especially in a kids movie,
Yeah.
right? Like this is a completely British production with the who's who, like I said, of British royal acting royalty, Peter Capaldi, um, you know, Hugh Bonneville, Julie Walters.
Oh, love Julie Walters in this role. She's been
She's
great across all three
phenomenal.
movies.
She's really phenomenal. She really is. But like I think that's important. It's important that that kind of comes through in art too. Um, especially in this fraught era. But it's like, it's not going to do much, but it's nice to see it, especially for kids too, so that they get exposed to these issues and can see them play out in real time in
Yeah.
bear form.
Love the bear form.
In bear form is the most important thing. And marmalade.
Have to have marmalade.
Yeah,
Really
I'm
nice if I
so
had a
glad we got a
marmalade
recipe.
sandwich under my hat instead of hat hair.
True. I'm so glad we got a recipe. What was that in Paddington too?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Very happy about that.
Also, shout out to the bears being able to build all of that machinery to make marmalade in their
Right?
secret orange grove. It's ridiculous, but it's a kids movie, so we're gonna love it.
Man, that was the city of gold. Marmalade is gold.
Orange gold.
Orange gold. True. Well, I think that's going to do it for us tonight, unless you've got any final thoughts on the movie other than go see it and enjoy it.
Yeah, go see it, enjoy it. I do want to share that even though Ben couldn't be with us tonight, he did enjoy the
Sure.
movie. He texted us. So shout out Ben. We miss you. We'll see you next week. We
Yeah.
better see you
Speaking
next
of,
week. Next week we're doing a great
we
movie,
better
right,
see.
Max?
Yeah, we do. Speaking of next week, George, you alluded to it earlier. We are heading back to Mickey 17 with Robert Pattinson. Is this his first film since Paris? Is this
This is
uh,
this is director Bong's
yeah,
first film since Parasite, the
okay.
follow-up, if you will.
Yeah. Man, it might be time to rewatch Parasite too.
I think it's probably been 3 or 4 years since I've seen Parasite, so
Yeah.
it's definitely time for a rewatch for me. Maybe before I
Hmm.
see Mickey 17, I'll rewatch it.
Yeah, it's like I didn't see his totally unrelated film. But the sequel is coming out in 2 weeks, so but yeah, we'll
Very
see you
excited.
next week for Mickey 17. We're very excited about that. We're finally getting back into 2025 releases. I know 24, this Paddington in Peru was technically a 24 release, I guess.
It was technically a 24 release, but
25 released in the States, right? Is that
yeah,
what it was? Yeah. But officially a 2025 release, no question about it, next week, Mickey 17. We're excited and we'll see you next week. Good night.
night.